let's change it up just a little bit, because covering the state of Texas, that means you cover a variety of conferences, including the Southeastern Conference, Big 12, what have you, American. What team are you most excited to watch for your own benefit? Not one that you would be covering, not one that you would necessarily be writing about. So perhaps a team from the Pac-12, Big 10, or ACC in there, a team that you're just excited to see what they're able to do.
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me go to my handy dandy list of teams, because there's a lot of teams in this world, obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, we got 130 FBS teams, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I am excited to see. Again, this is a team that I cover, but I am excited to see what SMU has coming back, because they lose a lot of production, but at the same time, I mean, I'm interested to see what they got. Actually, one team that I'll mention, because they have a couple of Texas connections now, is the U, Miami.
Oh.
They bring in Rhett Lashley, an offensive coordinator. They bring in De'Aaron King at quarterback. Two guys who obviously people from the state are very familiar with. I'm curious, right? Because their schedule's not that hard, right? They get to Michigan State in the non-conference. I think that's a winnable game. Temple, Wagner, UAB. I think those are all winnable games. And the division's not very good. I mean, Virginia Tech's going to be the big team that you're obviously fighting against. But I don't know. I think that the situation is there for them to be able to go and compete at the highest level. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be top 10 good necessarily, but there's a lot of potential there. And obviously talent-wise at Miami, that's never going to be an issue. And another team in that division, actually, North Carolina. I think that Sam Howell is a superstar. I think that Sam Howell is an absolute game changer. And look, I need to see whether this is real or whether this is Sam Howell and Mack Brown took people by surprise. But for me, I think that those are two teams that right away are going to be super duper intriguing right from the start.
I'm so with you on North Carolina and whatever it is they're going to be, because I've thought since the end of the season they are a sleeper pick in the ACC. I mean, the way that they played Clemson, the way that they were a score away from beating a team that played for a national title, the way that Mack Brown has been recruiting. I mean, you flip the only quarterback committed to Alabama in the 2021 class to North friggin' Carolina. And then I want to check this, but I'm fairly certain that if you look at the top 10 recruiters among the 2021 class right now, you'll see 5 Ohio State coaches, because the level that they're recruiting on is ridiculous. They're stupid. They could put together statistically the best class that we've ever seen. But also in there is defensive coordinator Jay Bateman for North Carolina.
Right.
And I'm going, wait a second, the dude from Army that you hired? I mean, their defense was good, but my goodness. And then I looked at who they got in the boat, and I'm going, oh crap, 2021, they're going to be a monster if they're not already in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that all of us, everybody who watches Big 12 football, and it's from this reason we're curious. I mean, there's a difference between being Mack Brown recruiting at Texas and Mack Brown recruiting somewhere that's not Texas, right? I mean, that was even something that I heard to some extent, back when back when Baylor was open, was should we go after a Les Miles or Mack Brown type? And I'm like, look, it's completely different being Mack Brown, at Texas versus somewhere else. And honestly, I kind of laughed a little bit when he took over at North Carolina, because I was just I don't really know what the plan is there. And like you mentioned, the staff hires have been phenomenal. I think that both coordinator hires have been phenomenal. Getting Sam Howell is obviously a game changer there. That's really the thing that I think is taking them to a different level. But look, there is talent in that Atlantic Coast region. And I think that there hasn't been a program that's done a great job other than Clemson of really, really leveraging that talent. And all of it's kind of gone to the SEC otherwise. And now I think you got a team in North Carolina that has been able to sell people that, hey, obviously I think that basketball is always going to come first and foremost, but we have the resources, we have the support, we have the fan support, we have the players, we can actually build something here if you really, really want to try. And I've been very impressed by them. Yeah,
man, I'm just going to roll through the 2021 recruiter rankings right quick. Number 1, Brian Hartline, Ohio State. Number 2, Tony Alford, Ohio State. Then you got Chris Herring at Wisconsin. Number 4, Kerry Combs, Ohio State. And then Jay Bateman, number 5, North Carolina.
Wow.
Stephen, right? North Carolina. Miami's in here at 6 with Stephen Field. And then Christian Robinson at Florida. Larry Johnson, Ohio State. Al Washington, Ohio State. David Turner at Florida. So, when you look at this and you say, which one of these is not like the other? and you see Jay Bateman. I got to give this line up to Kurt Bowles at the Austin American Statesman, or Statesman American. Which is it? I get confused.
American Statesman.
American Statesman. Thank you. He said, when Mack Brown has coordinators, he's golden because he's going to recruit. And the way that, again, it's North Carolina, man. Like it's a basketball school. You're not supposed to be this good. And then I look at some of the kids that he's enticed to come there and the way that he's selling them on the program and the way that he's able to just let Phil Longo and Jay Bateman just do what they do and stay out of their way. And you mentioned it, right? You started off with this with Sam Howell being flipped from Florida State. That should have been our first indication. Now, Florida State was a dumpster fire, is a dumpster fire, and I have faith that Mike is going to get it turned around over there. I love Mike Norvell. He was a GA when I was a senior at TU. So, I mean, I've known him for some time, going back to cornrows in Central Arkansas. But Sam Howell should have never gone to North Carolina, and he wouldn't have if Mack Brown was not there. So that's a really great pick. I want to talk a little bit about recruiting, just a bit, and just running through the 2021 rankings real quick. I mean, Ohio State is clearing away the favorite by 48 points over Clemson at number 2, which I've never seen before. I've never seen this kind of gap, even this early. And then Texas at number 8, and it's kind of where I'm going with this right now, right? Texas has 6 commits in the 2021 class. And then if you keep scrolling, you get to Oklahoma at 26. And then I've been having a lot of fun with this one on the channel. Show me where Alabama is in the rankings, right? And you got to keep going, and you got to keep going, and you got to keep going, because they only have one guy in the boat. And
wow.
Yeah.
I just scrolled all the way down. They're at 54 right now.
Right. And that's bonkers. And the guy that they have in, I think, is going to be outstanding. I mean, he's been compared to C.J. Mosley. He's coming out of Mobile Christian. Deontay Lawson is that dude. But this feels like a moment. This feels like a moment where you could pull away because nobody's been in this dead period before. We're looking at a dead period that's going to last through April 15th. And I feel like if you wanted to do it, if you wanted to be on the phones, and this would be where I would ding Matt Rule. He was the guy that's saying, I'm not going to be on the phone with recruits. I'm going to be with the guys that are here. I'm going, yeah, that's why your recruiting class is ranked 10 out of 10. But looking around, who do you think can make a move? Because, I mean, Texas Tech, you were on the brink. You had a bunch of close games. Probably should have beat that same Baylor team that ended up playing for a Big 12 title. But I'm looking at Iowa State at 37. You have opportunities to do what North Carolina has done. Who do you think is in a position right now to really capitalize on this moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think that you obviously have to think about some of the programs that have really strong relationships in this state, right? Especially when you're talking about Texas specifically. Like you mentioned Texas Tech. There is a program that gets out there really early. They get a lot of offers out right away. Because a lot of programs like Alabama, even Ohio State now, Ohio State's obviously doing a great job, but like, they kind of wait. They kind of come in and pluck the guys that they want later, especially some of the schools like Ohio State that recruit nationally. But, if you're Texas Tech, right, like you are a program that is already around always, right? Like you're already, giving out offers when guys are freshmen and sophomores. And that was something that I think that Cliff Kingsbury did a great job of was identifying that talent early. And I'm really curious to see because like you mentioned, I mean, having this dead period early, you're losing obviously some evaluation period along with that. And I think that in a funny way, 2021 might be one of the, I guess for lack of a better phrase, one of the less well recruited or evaluated classes, I guess.
For sure. Yeah.
And so if you are a program like Texas Tech right now, if you do have, a guy like Joey McGuire on staff now, not that I'm saying Baylor, but like if you do have one of those guys, I think, talking about a group of 5 team, UTSA, with Jeff Traylor, a guy who knows everybody in this state, I think that's where you're really going to be able to make some bread is if you do have one of those coaches and one of those staffs that's really good at evaluating early. And I think, like you mentioned, Iowa State's one of those staffs. I think Kansas State has obviously done a really good job of that. These sorts of staffs that get in early, that identify early, that really know what they're looking for. And look, because I think that there's going to be a little bit of a mad dash when it comes to the fall, because we don't have all these players committed. We're not having these junior days where everybody's committing now, and I think that will in some ways hurt some of these top schools because, they're going to be able to come in and scoop up guys that they want, but they're not going to have as much film, as much tape, as many camps. I mean, we don't even know how this is going to affect the camp circuit, obviously. I think that those are really going to be the schools that The big schools, I think, are going to have a slight disadvantage versus some other years because they're not going to be able to get around quite as much. Now, again, Ohio State's already number one, and they already got 14 kids. I mean, they obviously, are figuring it out just fine. But I am curious to see what the schools like Alabama and some of those really top-end schools, look, is their evaluation going to be quite as good as it has been in previous years?
Yeah, I think they might lean more on being able to swoop in late after everybody else has done their evaluations. I give two stories real quick because one, you brought up Iowa State, and Perion Winfrey, who was the number one rated junior college defensive tackle in 2020 class, signed with Oklahoma, early enrollee. And I got to talk with him for a little bit before he got on campus. And he's going to Iowa Western Community College because coaches at Iowa State kind of steered him there, thinking that they'd come get him in a couple of years. And he outperformed what he thought was an Iowa State offer, and he was right, ends up in Oklahoma. So they're really good at identifying talent, right? It's just, can they hold on to it to the end, or are they going to end up the way that Oklahoma did with a Jace McClellan, where Nick Saban shows up in witching hour and flips the kiddo to sign with Alabama? The other story in there is how the evaluation has gone to my eye, right? So here locally, one of my friends is Jeyarajah. His kiddo is Owen Ostrowski, and Owen is a player. He's been a player for some time. He plays at a 2A school here called Holland Hall. But he's picked up offers here in the last 2 weeks from Navy, Army, and then recently Hawaii, right? And what I'm watching is how coaches are really following other offers in a way that I haven't seen before. Look at Kendal Daniels out of Beggs, Oklahoma, which is a place on the map that a lot of people haven't considered. And yet that kiddo had offers from Oklahoma State and OU early, right? And he has family with ties to OU like many people in this state. And then Texas A&M. And then here in the last week, we've seen Clemson come through. We've seen Alabama come through. We've seen Georgia come through. We've seen LSU come through. I think that's how it's going to go, right? I think it's going to be really letting smaller schools that, like you mentioned, like a Texas Tech, or don't have the tradition or the legacy, just try to get out there early and do the work for you. And then you try to come in there and recruit based on what somebody else's evaluation is and how they might see a player that plays in your scheme like they might see one that plays in their scheme. Because, football, it's all copycat, right? We're all running some version of 4-2-5 now. We're all running some version of three technique or three-man front, not three technique. So I think that's what we're going to look at. But what is interesting is who's going to get a kid to pull the trigger. And if you were really good at talking to kids on the phone, if you're really good at playing Madden with them via these streaming platforms that we have, I think that you could do what Ohio State has done. But I wonder if there are coaches that care enough to try to pull that off right now, or they're, like you say, going to wait for a mad dash to happen in the fall. So I'm interested on that.